Keanu Reeves walked into a fancy restaurant looking very modest. He was wearing worn jeans and a simple shirt with a light jacket that looked like it had been through several seasons. He looked just like any other person walking by on the street, and nothing about his appearance suggested that he was a star or someone of high status. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel because tomorrow at 7 p.m. we have another special story just for you. Keanu Reeves, the famous Hollywood star, was known for his extreme modesty and his love of staying away from the spotlight. The restaurant was in the heart of Beverly Hills, where luxury harmonizes with the sparkling neon lights. The Lumiere restaurant was considered one of the most prominent luxury destinations, frequented by the city's residents and its visitors from the world's celebrities. The restaurant is located on a street bustling with life, where luxury sports cars rush elegantly, and an atmosphere of luxury and extravagance is scattered in the air. Every corner of this high-end place was dedicated to highlighting luxury, from the lavish decorations to the meticulous arrangement of the tables, and everything in the place aims to create an unforgettable experience for visitors. Inside this place, Stacy, a waitress and one of Lumiere's oldest employees, had quickly risen up the career ladder thanks to her competence, but she also had a strange pride that made her see herself as part of the upper class. Stacy didn't think of her job as just a job, but rather a privilege, and she had a fixed idea of who deserved to eat at this fancy restaurant and who didn't. Stacy had an unusual ability to judge customers just by looking at them. Their clothes, the way they walked, and the way they acted revealed many things. To her, the distinguished customers were distinguished by their luxurious clothes and shiny jewelry, while those who did not adhere to this standard were nothing more than passing visitors in this luxurious place. While Stacy was busy with the details of a private reservation with an important customer, this man who had just entered caught her attention, and she couldn't help but stop and give him a skeptical look. To her, his appearance was completely inappropriate for the place, and he was completely unacceptable. How could a man dressed like that be a regular at Lumiere? She was clearly about to classify him as an undesirable customer. She approached him, and when she reached him, she raised her eyebrow in question and said in a dry tone, "Good evening. How may I help you?" Keanu replied calmly, smiling gently, "I would like a table, please." But her answer was hesitant, and her eyes remained fixed on his modest clothing. This was not the ideal customer in her eyes, so she frowned and said in a strange tone, "Are you sure you're in the right place? This is a fancy restaurant. You might want to look for another place." Her eyes were full of contempt, and her manner suggested that she did not consider him suitable for staying. Keanu remained smiling and did not appear to be bothered. Then he said calmly, "Yes, I am sure I am in the right place." Stacy felt that his words did not match his appearance, but he replied without showing any hesitation, "Just a moment, please." She quickly turned to the reception desk, where she searched the reservation machine for any reservations under this man's name. After a moment of silence, she glanced back at the screens and then back at him, hiding her growing feelings of embarrassment. "As I expected, there's no reservation for you." Keanu remained calm, nothing in his features hinting at discomfort. He simply replied, continuing to smile, "No problem, I'll wait here." Stacy felt uncomfortable with this man who didn't seem to care about money, so she added in a sarcastic tone, "We don't usually take in customers who don't adhere to the level of the place, but we do have some tables available." As she spoke, she acted as if to raise herself, then turned to the less attractive corners of the restaurant. Quickly, she advanced to the farthest corner of the place, placing the menu on the table in her hand as if to confirm that it was good for him. She said with a fake smile, "This table will be fine for you. If you need anything, let me know." Then, she walked away from the table without looking back. While she expected him to leave shortly, Keanu continued to sit quietly in his place, carefully opening the menu and scanning the options in front of him with his eyes. He seemed to be in another world, unaffected by any of the curious looks that began to be thrown at him from nearby customers. As the live music continued to fill the air, some people in the restaurant began to notice Keanu. And little by little, they began to wonder who this strange man was, who did not appear to be bothered by the condescending treatment he was subjected to. To them, there was something unusual about his personality, as if his calmness and composure were what set him apart from everyone else. As Stacy whispered to a nearby customer, "He won't be here for more than 5 minutes. He won't stand this place." Keanu showed no reaction to those comments. He kept smiling and continued to browse the menu with complete calm. What Stacy didn't know was that this humble man she thought was out of place was Keanu Reeves, one of Hollywood's most famous stars. Despite his great fame, he chose to remain out of sight, living a simple life far from artificial luxury. However, at that moment, everyone discovered that despite his modest clothing, he was the star that the media did not need to highlight. He preferred to be a star in his own right. The low chatter of the staff created an atmosphere of isolation away from the rest of the dining room, as if it were a window to another world. "Here you are. This table should do the trick," Stacy said, dropping the menu on the table nonchalantly, acting as if it were a matter of course. "I think you'll feel comfortable here. It's more private." Keanu looked at the table calmly, then raised his eyes to meet hers, smiling a quiet smile. "Thank you," he responded gently. Stacy folded her arms and narrowed her eyes, trying to decipher whether he was being sarcastic or genuinely ignorant of the condescension around him. "You're welcome," she said with a sardonic tone. "Just so you know, we usually reserve these tables for special occasions, but since there are no reservations tonight, you can sit here." She spun on her heels and left, leaving Keanu in a state of serene silence. When Stacy returned to take his order, Keanu noticed her exaggerated gesture as she pulled out her notebook and gave him a cold look. "Have you decided what you want?" she asked, her voice filled with boredom. "Or would you like a recommendation?" Keanu carefully looked over the menu and pointed to one of the more expensive dishes. "I'd like to try this one." Stacy stifled a laugh, covering her mouth to suppress a sarcastic comment. "Of course, the filet mignon de risotto," she said haughtily. "A very classic dish. Just to confirm, sir, you do know this dish costs $350, right?" "Yes, it looks great," Keanu replied calmly. Stacy tilted her head, her lips curling into a sly smile. "Well then, just to make sure there are no misunderstandings later, I suggest you double-check the prices. We don't want anyone to be surprised." Unmoved by her deliberate provocation, Keanu calmly responded, "I'm sure." Letting out a dramatic sigh, Stacy wrote down the order. "Good, as you wish, but I warn you, our chef prefers dishes like this to be enjoyed by those who appreciate fine dining. I hope it meets your expectations." She turned sharply, but then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. The minimum tip expected here is 20%. Keep that in mind while you enjoy yourself." Keanu remained completely unaffected as he waited, admiring the restaurant's decor and listening to the pianist's graceful performance. When the appetizers arrived, Stacy slammed the plate down, causing it to slide slightly. "Here are the appetizers. I hope you enjoy them, or at least know what you're eating," she said with a wry smile. Keanu thanked her politely. "Thank you, Stacy." Leaning toward him as if to provoke, she remarked, "You know, a lot of people who order this dish don't like it. It's not very mainstream, but I think you'll be fine. Good luck." Maintaining his calm expression, Keanu responded, "It looks excellent. Thank you for your concern." Frustrated by his unshakable composure, Stacy walked away, dissatisfied. She muttered to a coworker, "This guy won't even get to the main course. He'll ask for the bill as soon as he sees the tally." Meanwhile, Keanu calmly enjoyed his appetizers, oblivious to the atmosphere Stacy had tried to create. From a distance, Stacy crossed her arms, watching Keanu. A sly grin appeared when she noticed his seemingly relaxed demeanor. "I bet he'll order tap water." "Those people always do," she commented, her coworker paying little attention. An elderly customer at a nearby table silently raised his glass toward Keanu, acknowledging him with a subtle toast. Keanu smiled back and nodded, catching the attention of other diners. Dinner had just begun, but Stacy's growing disdain would soon be noticed. Instead of delivering Keanu's order, she prioritized other patrons, lingering to chat and laugh with them, even serving drinks at tables outside her responsibility. As Keanu waited patiently, Stacy walked by his table repeatedly, each time pretending to be too busy to acknowledge him. When his eyes met hers, she would quickly look away and quicken her steps. She's pretending to be polite, but she's clearly uncomfortable, Stacy said, with a sarcastic laugh, placing an empty glass forcefully on a nearby table. I bet he has no idea what he's eating, she continued. People like him come here to feel important, but end up making fools of themselves. Her coworker, uncomfortable, smiled cautiously. Maybe he just wants dinner, Stacy. Maybe we should treat him like any other customer. Stacy scoffed. Like any other customer? Did you see the shoes he's wearing? He doesn't belong here. Honestly, if he can't handle it, he shouldn't even walk through the door. Meanwhile, the couple who had been observing the scene earlier exchanged whispers. She's awful, the woman muttered, shaking her head. He's so polite, and she keeps trying to humiliate him. The man frowned. I agree, it's a shame. I think we should ask the restaurant manager. Keanu returned to his table, calmly finishing his main course, his demeanor unaffected by the whispers around him. He noticed the sympathetic looks from other patrons, but his calmness only seemed to irritate Stacy more. When Stacy brought out his plate, her expression remained filled with disdain. So, how was the dish? Did it meet your expectations? She asked, her smile as fake as ever. Keanu looked her straight in the eyes, his voice steady and unwavering. It was excellent, thank you. Please tell the chefs they did a flawless job. Stacy raised an eyebrow, surprised that she couldn't provoke him. As she walked away, she muttered loudly enough for others to hear. He may be smiling now, but let's see if he's still smiling when the bill comes. Keanu sat at his table, quietly observing the room with a slight smile tugging at his lips. His eyes showed that the moment to act was approaching. Stacy, increasingly frustrated by her inability to unsettle him, decided to escalate her provocations. After serving his coffee, she deliberately raised her voice, making sure nearby tables could hear her. You know, it's hard to maintain standards when anyone thinks they can just walk in, she said to her colleague, casting a sharp glance at Keanu. The colleague, visibly uncomfortable, tried to change the subject. At another table, an elderly man took a sip of his wine, shaking his head in disapproval. This has gone too far, he muttered under his breath. Keanu, still seated calmly, surveyed the room with quiet composure. His serene demeanor only added to Stacy's growing discomfort as she felt the weight of the other patron's eyes on her. A well-dressed woman seated 2 tables away leaned toward her companion. He must be somewhat important to stay this calm, she whispered. Or maybe he's just stronger than she realizes, the man replied, glancing at Keanu curiously. Determined to force a reaction, Stacy returned to Keanu's table, pretending to check on him. Her approach, however, was far from professional. I hope you're enjoying your experience, she said, flashing a sarcastic smile. It's always interesting to have different kinds of people here. It adds a unique touch to the atmosphere. Keanu fixed her with a steady gaze. His voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable weight. Different? Could you explain what you mean by that? Stacy let out a nervous laugh, her composure faltering. Oh, don't take it the wrong way. It's just that, well, a clientele usually has a more traditional profile. It's rare to see someone with your style here. The room fell silent. Nearby diners stopped their conversations, clearly tuning into the unfolding exchange. Stacy seemed to relish the attention, believing she had the situation under control. Keanu, however, remained silent for a few moments, holding her gaze. His expression was firm, yet devoid of anger. Finally, he spoke. You're right. Perhaps I should handle this differently. Before Stacy could respond, the restaurant manager appeared. A middle-aged man with impeccable posture and an air of authority. He scanned the room, immediately sensing the tension. His eyes landed on Keanu and his expression changed drastically. He hurried over to the table, completely ignoring Stacy. Mr. Reeves, the manager exclaimed, his tone filled with respect. I wasn't aware you were visiting us today, his focus entirely on Keanu. With a slight bow of respect, he addressed him directly, his voice filled with sincerity. Mr. Reeves, I deeply apologize for the delay in recognizing you. It's an honor to have you here this evening. Please, allow me to make your experience more enjoyable. Stacy, who had believed she had control of the situation up until that point, stood in shock, her mind racing as she tried to comprehend what was happening. Mr. Reeves, he knows him. What is going on here? Keanu looked at the manager, offering a small, reassuring smile. Thank you, but there's no need to worry, I'm fine. I just wanted to have a brief conversation with your staff, if that's not a problem." The manager's expression shifted to one of concern, sensing something was amiss. "Of course, Mr. Reeves, whatever you need." He cast a sharp, reproachful glance at Stacy, who stood beside them, pale and visibly uncomfortable. Stacy stammered, desperate to regain control. I didn't know. I thought." The manager cut her off, his voice low but firm, the weight of his words sinking in. "What, Stacy, that this customer, who happens to be one of the owners of this restaurant, didn't deserve the same respect as anyone else?" His tone was measured, but the severity of it drained the color from her face. Stacy's attempts to justify herself faltered. He didn't say who he was, and he looked. She trailed off, realizing that anything she said would only dig her deeper into the hole she had created. Keanu finally broke the silence, his voice calm but resonant, carrying a weight that seemed to fill the room. "There's no need to state who I am in order to be treated with dignity. It shouldn't matter. Everyone who walks through these doors, regardless of their appearance, deserves to be welcomed with respect." The entire dining room fell silent, every patron riveted by this revelation. Whispers spread through the crowd as many patrons realized that Keanu was one of the restaurant's owners. The couple who had been observing the interaction exchanged pleased looks, while the elderly man at a nearby table nodded in discreet approval. A man seated with his wife leaned in and whispered, "I knew there was something different about him. He has a presence that's impossible to ignore." The woman nodded, her eyes on Keanu as she said, "Look at how he's handling this, with such grace. I hope she's learning something from this." The atmosphere in the dining room was thick with tension, yet there was also a palpable sense of anticipation. Everyone was waiting to see how this would play out. Turning to Stacy once more, the manager's expression blended frustration and restraint. "Stacy, I expect a detailed explanation of your behavior after your shift. For now, please leave this table and stay away from it. I'll take over from here." Stacy opened her mouth to protest, but the manager's resolute gaze silenced her. With an abrupt motion, she turned and hurried away, her face flushed as she avoided the gazes of the onlookers. Keanu took a deep breath and stood up. He scanned the room, noticing that all eyes were now fixed on him. With a calm tone that commanded attention, he began to speak. This restaurant was founded on the idea of being a place where everyone, no matter how they dress or where they come from, could feel welcome. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case today, but I believe we can learn from this. The diners were silent, hanging on every word. The manager, though clearly uneasy, couldn't help but admire the way Keanu was handling the situation. Turning to the manager, Keanu added, "I'd like to meet with the entire team after the dining room closes. There are some important things we need to discuss." The manager nodded quickly. "It will be done, Mr. Reeves. Once again, I apologize for everything." Keanu returned to his seat, and as he did, the atmosphere in the dining room slowly began to return to normal. However, the patrons continued to whisper among themselves, still in shock from what they had just witnessed. Later, when the dining room had emptied and the staff gathered in the back, Keanu stood at the center, his presence commanding the space. His gaze swept across the team, meeting each person's eyes with a calm but unwavering resolve. "We all make mistakes," he began, his voice steady and resonant. "But what truly matters is what we do after those mistakes. What we witnessed today was a problem that goes far beyond poor service. We saw the impact of snap judgments, hidden biases, and a lack of empathy. But I want you to understand that this is not a condemnation. It's an opportunity to grow." He paused, letting the words sink in. His eyes found Stacy, who sat in the back, her eyes filled with shame. "Stacy," he said gently but firmly, "I know what happened today was a mistake. But mistakes can be corrected if there is effort and a willingness to learn. What you choose to do next will define who you are." Keanu turned to the rest of the team, his voice softening but still purposeful. "In the world we live in, it's easy to judge others based on their appearance, their clothes, their car, or where they come from. But what if we chose to treat others with kindness? What if we chose to look beyond their appearance and see their humanity?" He stepped forward, hands in his pockets, his tone becoming more reflective. "We all carry struggles that no one else can see. The person who seems out of place might be facing the hardest day of their life. The person who doesn't dress as expected might have accomplished more than we could imagine. The kindness we choose to extend, especially to those we think don't deserve it, might be the very thing that changes everything. The staff remained silent, deeply moved. Some appeared visibly emotional, while others stared at the floor, lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Stacy lifted her head, wiping away her tears. Her voice, laden with remorse, broke the silence. I never thought about it that way, she admitted quietly. I was so focused on maintaining the restaurant's image, on upholding standards, that I forgot what really matters. I forgot that every person has value, no matter who they are or what they look like. She turned to Keanu. I promise, Mr. Reeves, I'll change. Keanu nodded, offering a small, encouraging smile. That promise is to yourself, Stacy, not to me. True change comes from within. And if you need help along the way, I'll be here. Stacy nodded, a mix of relief and determination washing over her. Keanu addressed the entire staff once more, his tone now gentle but purposeful. Kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about the small choices we make every day. It's about treating everyone we encounter as if they matter, because they do. And that's what defines the character of a place and of a person. The staff absorbed his words in silence. Some appeared moved, others lost in thought. Stacy wiped away the last of her tears, her resolve firming. Later, as Keanu stepped out of Lumiere, the streets of Beverly Hills sparkled under the city lights. He paused briefly on the sidewalk, glancing back at the restaurant. A soft smile spread across his face as he reflected on what had just transpired. That evening wasn't just about a restaurant or a mistreated customer. It was about creating spaces where people feel seen, heard, and valued. Keanu knew that even in the most challenging situations, there was an opportunity to inspire and transform. As he walked down the illuminated streets, he thought about what he had said and the message he hoped others would take from that night. If he could leave everyone with one thought, it would be this. In a world where you can be anything, choose to be kind. True strength lies not in judgment, but in acceptance. And remember, it's in the small choices we make every day that shape not only the world around us, but also who we are as human beings. If you enjoy stories like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow at 7 p.m. we have another special story just for you.